Welcome to the latest episode of the Claus Corner. Today's guest is a world-recognized singer and songwriter in the genres of rock, punk rock, and hardcore punk. He is also an instrumentalist, live performance artist, producer, photographer, artist, and writer. His bands include Bad Brains, Common Thread, Uprising, and Fireburn. His solo work includes Ghetto Folk, Deeper Meaning, Rod of Iron, and Meltdown. So without further ado, please welcome the extremely talented Israel Joseph to the Claus Corner. Israel, how are you?
Hey, Rich, thank you so much for that great intro. I'm doing well. How are you, man?
I am doing well. Before I get into it, I was going to ask you off the air. I forgot. Is it Israel Joseph I or is it Israel Joseph?
Either way, sometimes I use the I. It's a little formal to use the I. The I really stands for the first. I'm the first person in my family to be named that. So, but it's come on, bro.
Okay. No, we're good.
Either way, either Israel Joseph I is my traditional Rastafarian full title. It's Selassie I, and a lot of I's actually. There's been a lot of I's. So yeah, it's mostly what people know me for on stage. Yeah. So
okay, well, that's you will be Israel Joseph I for the rest of the interview.
Yes. Well, sounds good. Sounds good.
As I told you off the air, I had so much fun doing my research on you. There's so much to talk about. And I want to start with the Sevenaria University. So what is that?
Okay. Sevenaria is a concept I developed quite recently, actually, but it's been a concept I've been doing since I was a child. I've always been interested in mysteries and unknown information and pertinent information. It comes from being taught the Bible, I think. Maybe it just comes from being Aquarius, but being taught the Bible at a really young age by my grandmother. She taught me how to read the King James Bible. So by the time I was like 5 years old, I was already knowing how to read the King James Bible. And that she was really keen on doing something for me that changed my life. But that introduced me to a lot of history and mystery. And from there, it led to understanding a lot of information that's not really known. And I decided to put together Sevenaria University. Sevenaria is basically the sevens. Okay, there's a lot of septenaries in our life. 7 musical notes, 7 visible planets. There's sevens go on and on. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But basically, there's a few sevens that can help us in this age. The 7 hermetic principles, for instance. Those are really important. I mean, I think that knowing that everything vibrates is scientific, but Hermes and Thoth and these people, they knew this, and they said if we could just tune our vibrations to these universal vibrations, which is actually what Rasta has been saying as well, then we would get a better result because it would be more harmonious. The animals seem to have been tuned in with this vibration. We have to find it ourselves. So there's 7 levels of tuning in. You know, the planets are affecting us. So the sun is included in those planets. They're orbs. Orbs are affecting us. Their light that they're shedding on us is affecting us, and we want to get to know that. We want to take this power out of the hands of human beings and the worship of men and the manly form and the womanly form or the human form or the animal form or any earthly form, and start to understand what these planets are really doing for us. And traditionally, there's 7 visible planets that are visible to the human eye without a telescope. We can see them, all right? And the moon, and they're not planets, they're orbs. 7 visible orbs includes the moon, it includes Venus, it includes Mercury, the sun, Mars, and Saturn, okay? So these represent real objects, but they also represent 7 levels which we can attain within ourselves. And this is what I've been trying to do my whole life, rising, like rising through the levels. The moon represents your primal ugliness of not knowing right or wrong, sensing right or wrong, but maybe having to learn the finite of right or wrong, right? There's a big picture right or wrong, there's a finite right or wrong too. And this is where the moon comes in. getting rid of is what these planets are really asking you to do. Is getting rid of your ignorance. So you drop your ignorance at the moon. You move on to Venus, which is the planet of love, right? But why is that? Because traditionally it represents the first star we see in the evening and the first star we see in the morning. It leads the sun, it leads the planets, it leads the constellations. So we feel like it is doing a service and it is bringing forth beauty. We're about to see beauty when the Venus arrives. So that means in you to remember that the universe is telling you to cultivate a belief in beauty, understand a belief in empathy and service. And so it goes on and on. The sun and all of that, all the way to the top of the seven. So you meet Saturn with his rings. And Saturn is well balanced. You see, he's got rings. All the other planets have rings, but they're very dispersed. Even Jupiter is dispersed, but he's very balanced. He's got his rings going on.
Oh yeah.
So he's the top of the pyramid, man. And then there's a force above him actually, which is Neptune, which I really haven't talked about, which is the ninth sphere. See, the Earth is the eighth sphere. It's a sphere of creation, but the ninth sphere would really be Neptune, which is the place where the water above. You see, that's the real water above. You see, they're confused about the firmament in the Bible, where it says in King James Bible, there's a firmament, there's a waters above and the waters below. So we thought there's a glass dome. Well, they're reading that wrong, right? Because there's an atmosphere between the ocean and the clouds. So the clouds contain water. And so that is the water above. And the ocean below is the waters below. So there is a firmament because when the wind blows, you knock you over. When the wind blows, it's strong, but yet you cannot see it. And what does it mean? Well, what has it meant? It went by. It's a firmament. You see, we get words out of words out of words. So firmament. What does this unseen thing represent here? It is a firmament. So they believed that the air, the atmosphere was holding the clouds and everything in place, right? They didn't believe there was a dome. You see, later people came along and drew this thing and said, this is what the Bible's saying. When the Bible talks about the pillars of the earth, if you look up the word pillar, it's where we get the word pill from. It means stone, large stones in the bottom of the earth. Yes, there are large stones in the bottom of the earth holding the mantle and holding the continents in place and holding our, right now below us, we dig, we're going to find some large, and then they're going to melt. And they're going to become the fires of so all of this has to do with Sevenaria, the seven, and it's a university to teach, most importantly, what we can do today to attune ourselves to the forces of the universe so that we can move beyond this earthly realm. It's time to do it. It's the age of Aquarius, no more the age of Pisces. We're done. That's done. 2,100 years, that was fun, but now it's over. It wasn't really fun though, because it was confusion. It was duality, love, hate, believe, no, this, that. So we're no more in the age of that. Now we're in the age of energetic flow, because that what's really coming out of his face is energy, electric magnetism, and energy from the creative force, not water. You see, we think the Egyptians represented water, but yes, it is water, but it flows like energy. So we're in an age of the air sign, and the air sign is mental. Like you see me right now, I'm frantic because the age has taken me. Now I have a responsibility to speak this, but it's always took me early, right? You can see how early riser, right? I mean, there's a joke in there somewhere, right? So it took me early. As a kid, I was like, knowing what was going on, and the music just helped bring it out of me,
Yeah, I love it.
So Sevenaria, that's what Sevenaria is about. It's about teaching, about bringing forth some great knowledge to people in this time that they can use to help themselves.
Now, is it an online university? People could watch it online on YouTube?
Yeah, it's an online university. So it's, keep in mind, it's brand new, so there's not a lot of content there when you go to the Sevenaria website, but it's Sevenaria, which is Sevenaria, like an aria, Aria, Sevenaria, one word, at youtube.com. And there we'll be presenting information, stuff that's important, I think, or going to be important, or people in the future might think is important. Like I said, Hermetic principles are pretty seriously important in this time. We need to get back to certain foundations, 7 levels of perfection. You know, there are other subjects that are coming up that I'm not going to reveal right now, but we're going to be doing everything from, you know, first visitation of the alien creatures. We're going to explore that, to what it means to find religion through understanding the planets and astronomy, astrology, astrotheology, archaeoastronomy, studying language. We're going to be pushing into a lot of social dynamics as well, but I don't want to get too much. I've been, you know, I'm brown, and I live in a society where I have certain things to deal with because of that, and I've been trapped by that. I realized in the last year that that was actually an entrapment that stopped me from excelling. That was a game they played, and I realized, and I broke that shell. So I'm trying my hardest now not to talk about politics and how I, like, you know, all this whole struggle that I've talked about for 30 years, that let's take it away from this planet and back to what we're supposed to be focused on, which will renew everything, man. I'm telling you, it will renew everything. If you had a natal chart, you probably do, I don't know, but a birth chart to tell you your strong points and your weak points, and certain character traits that I read my natal chart at 51 years old. I was shocked. I tried not to read it. I knew they existed, of course, but I didn't want to read it because you don't want to be a caricature of yourself, you know? You don't want to be a pretense. So I'm supposed to be, but I heard about what Aquarius is, you know? Yeah, you dig it, right? But I knew what Aquarius was, but I only knew the fantastic version of Aquarius. That Aquarius is like this mystical person that is like caring about animals and caring about, and I knew that's who I was. Yeah, and I was like, okay, I got it. That's me. I don't need to know anymore. It's too scary. But when I really looked into a natal chart about when you're born, your sun sign is Aquarius, but there are all the other signs that were in positions in the cosmos at the time of your birth. And those positions have a magnetic effect on you all through your life, and you're made up of those magnetic effects. And those magnetic effects have an effect on how you bring forth your energy into this life. You're either going to know about it, or you're going to be it, and you're going to be out of control about it. But it's best to know about it. That's why I'm promoting this whole Sevenaria natal chart, which is a combination between the sidereal charts, the IAU charts, and the tropical charts. One chart, one Sevenaria chart, 3 times in life. So you get a full perspective of what's happening. Because apparently, see, like me, my Mercury is in Capricorn. What does that mean? It means that I'm going to be the way I am, and I've always been that way. I'm a deliverer of a message, and I'm a collector and a deliverer. And I don't know why I've been that way, but I've you know, when you read about these things, you understand. So I think it's important for everyone to know. I think it's been hidden. It's in the Bible. I know that astrology is forbidden in the Bible, but it's a mistranslation in Sevenaria, in my opinion. It's a mistranslation. It's fortune tellers, future tellers. This kind of stuff is forbidden, but not the study of the stars, because I mean, Joseph knew that the sun was in the middle of the planets. If you know your Bible, he says, I had a dream. And they said, what did you dream about? He said, I dreamt that we were collecting sheaves of wheat, and my sheaf got up and stood in the middle, and all of your sheaves stood around, 12 sheaves, and bowed to my sheaf. And they said, well, who do you think you are, the sun? Bam.
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 You know, I love to. I want to say something funny about what you just said. I love the message that you have. I believe all of that, and I just love that you're spreading peace, love, understanding, getting rid of the whole polarization, divisiveness. But it's funny. My birthday is on July 29th, and I don't know how many people come up to me and say, "You're a Leo." I said, "Why do you say it?" I just know you are. You're a Leo. And they're right, but I always ask them, like, just the way you are. I know you're a Leo. And it's funny that people. It's happened way more than once, probably like 15, 20 times, where people just come up to me the way you are. Because the reason for me, they say that I'm confident, I'm a leader, and they just like the way I project myself. They're like, you're a Leo. So I definitely would love to see the birth natal chart. I would love to see mine just to get an idea of what that says about Leos or about me.
Do you know what time you were born in the morning?
Yep. Actually, it's funny. I was born 7:29 a.m. on
I'm
7:29.
7:30 a.m. too. Oh, you
Wow.
gotta be kidding. 7:30 a.m. February 6th, 96. You gotta be kidding. Come on.
No, I,
7:30 for real.
yep.
Wow. Did you
So I was
find, we were born in the 12th house, although we were born at the edge of the 12th house, which means we could be okay. But my 12th house is definitely played out in the weirdest ways, which means the 12th house is a house of trouble.
Mhm.
It's a house of trouble. It's a house that people can misunderstand you, and that's the reason why it's trouble. It's not trouble because you're like a bad person. It's trouble because you're going to be the person who's going to be bringing all little stuff in, and people may not understand you right away, or they may see you as the leader, and that leader often gets the arrows are starting to come at the leader. You know what I mean? They say, "Oh yes, you're a leader." Arrows, pow, 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 pow. I hate that guy. Like it could be, you never know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the 12th house is that kind of thing, but it's always ends up that the 12th house is a blessing because the 12th house is it's like the Jesus house, you know what I mean? It's like the house where you're born to bring forth the message. And if people can be really patient, like look at you, you got this show that you're doing, this program, this interview, you're bringing the message. You're born in the house, but you are a Leo. I can tell that you're a Leo. See, I'm juxtaposed to the Leo. Aquarius and Leo are like this in the chart, and they help each other because I'm Saturn,
Yeah.
and Leo is the sun.
Mhm.
He's a brother of the sun, and I control the winter. I'm the light of the winter. He's the light of the summer. So it's like a thing. You know what I mean? It's like the same person, but a different kind of approach. And but it's brothers. The Aquarius and the Leos are brothers. We're brothers. You and I.
Well, I'm
We're
glad to
doing
have my
just like
brother
we,
on
we
the
do
show.
just like we're doing right now on the charts there. Where me and you we're facing each other.
I love it. It's so good to have this family reunion on the Claus Corner.
Absolutely. Did you know this was the constellation Leo?
I did. Leo the Lion.
This is what this is, the constellation. This is the sun
Yep.
in Capricorn. This is the Tropic of Capricorn. In Cancer. I'm sorry, in Cancer.
Yep.
This is the sun at the Tropic of Cancer, and this is the Tropic of Capricorn. These are the southernmost constellations. These are the constellations we see every night. The Big Dipper, Orion's Belt, Leo,
Mhm.
and Leo is up here too, right? So we got the constellations up here too. It's also the light of the sun. This whole flag is a syncretized image of the sun in July, which makes him the sun, the lion of
Mhm.
Judah, astrologically. So this is why Haile Selassie is important because when he took the title, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, he said he was the sun. The sun is when he is in July, he conquers this because you can't see the constellation in July of Leo. It's shining, it's in the day. That's when he's in the house. This is so important to understand all these intricacies. When the house, right now, the house is the sun is in the house. We can't see it, the constellation he's in. But at night, we see the other ones. And then when he leaves this constellation during the year, we're going to see this constellation again. So they say he's occupying the house. So in
Mhm.
July, he's always in the house. So he's in the house, you see. And
Yep.
so it's so deep that the ancients knew all these things. I can't get enough of it. It's like, how were they so smart? And we just build like square buildings. So we're smart too,
Yeah.
but we're smart in a different way. We're smart to do robotic things. We're
Yeah.
smart to do robotic things, things that are like, well, machine like, we can carry on our basic needs smart.
Yeah.
You know, but these guys were smart on another level. Like they were tuned into uh understandings that you can't get out of experience.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You can probably get it out of a book, but no, you have to intune this stuff. You got to really be living that life to become an I, the designer of the pyramid. You know, you got to really be living that life to become an Enoch. You know,
I
like
love it.
you can't just be like, yeah, it's great. And they don't teach us that no more. You know, live that life. You know, like the mystical. Okay, they give us two versions of Christianity. The popular version of Christianity, which I'm not knocking anything, but I don't subscribe to, is Pauline. It's Pauline. It's what everybody practices. That's from Paul. That's the world's Christianity. Okay, Jesus came to him to knock him off of the horse. But hey, in the Old Testament, God said, "I gave you laws to prosper you for nothing." But what did he say? That I don't know. You can check out the exact wording. Laws that are good for nothing. Some of them prosper no prosperity at all, right? And so in the New Testament, Paul is teaching a worldly Christianity where there's no laws, no rules, no nothing. All you got to do is say, "Hey, Jesus Christ," and you're good. And that is worldly Christianity. But you know what? There's a mystical Christianity, which is in the four Gospels, you see? And I'm going to tell you something really important, that the four Gospels is about the Son. And Paul's teachings and the letters is about a man named Jesus. That's why in the four Gospels, the character Christ dies on the cross, because the sun in winter dies down in the south on a constellation called the Southern Cross. There's four stars. They call them the Southern Cross. So when he doesn't rise in the winter and he's all the way down here, in the summer, he's all the way up here, right now. He's all the way up here over our heads. But look at him in December. He's all the way out there somewhere. You can't see him down south. He's like not even hardly rising over your head anymore. We never observed this, but this is true. And he's all the way out there. So he's down on the bottom near the equator, and he's near a place called the Southern Cross, bro. That's what the cross is. It's not a real cross, not a guy dying on a cross. It's the sun going down south to die for winter. You don't see the sun no more. And then he dies on the Southern Cross. So that's why Christ in the gospel dies on a cross. But in the book of Acts, Jesus dies on a tree.
Oh.
Two different things.
Hmm.
And my grandmother made this clear to me, but she didn't make it clear why. She knew I had to live to find out why. But she
Yeah.
said, "You remember, and this is a cross, this is a tree." She
Yeah,
put that there.
I love your passion for this, and it's very infectious. I have to make so, and I that's why I told you. I said off the air. I said doing my research on you was like a history lesson. I learned so much just reading and now talking to you. I learned even more. It makes me want to go read some more of the Gospels and get some more information. But I do have to say that I did watch a couple of your videos on YouTube. I love the Sevenaria University. And I'm also following that on Facebook. And I want to say two things that really caught my interest, maybe because they're most recent, were one, why some artistic images of Moses, why he has horns. And then another one that you talked about was the Ark of the Covenant. Does it exist and where is it? And I found
Yes,
those two
yes.
stories very, if people who want to check it out, and I recommend that all my viewers do. Sevenaria University, it's online. Also check it on YouTube, and you can read about it. You can watch his videos. I know you said right now you only have a couple, but you're just beginning with this. It's going to be going a lot. I mean, as you could tell from our conversation, he's very knowledgeable and he has a lot of information that he wants to get out. So I would subscribe to it as soon as you're done with watching this interview.
It's awesome. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah,
Absolutely.
guys. I would appreciate a subscription from you guys. It's only love, and it's coming from a place of love. It's not coming from a place of lecture or anything like that. It's just coming from a place of, I found something really cool, and I think you guys should check this out. You might not know how to benefit from it, or you might immediately realize this is something I can benefit from, but I would appreciate some support because it is completely independent. I'm an independent person. I know I was signed on Sony Epic 20 something years ago, 30 years ago, but I have been independent for many years since then and doing a lot of independent work. And Sevenaria is one of those works. So getting a subscription like Rich was talking about would really help me out. So that'd be great. I
All
appreciate
right.
it. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to where it all began. I want to go back to
Yes.
Israel
Let's go
Joseph
back.
I, the early years.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
first of all, where did you grow up?
All right. Well, that has two different stories, I guess. My first early years was spent in a Caribbean island, Trinidad.
Mhm.
I was born there. I was born in the Caribbean, in a place called Port of Spain, and I grew up in Champlain, right below a hill. And back then, it was really forested and undeveloped. But my family was doing really well. My mother worked for the American Embassy. She traveled a lot, so we had a nice house. So I grew up in a nice way as a kid. Not when I got to New York, we got broke. But I spent a lot of time in the jungle and the forest as Trinidad because, as I said, it was undeveloped. So there was a hill right into the jungle, right where I lived, up to a lady that babysat us called Mrs. Mills. She would take care of us. And as children, 5 years, 6 years old, I'd run all through the hills in the jungle. It was a beautiful experience. And we left Trinidad when I was 8, came to New York, and I was immediately an outsider, of course, did not speak the way everyone else did, and quickly had to learn my place. But I, as a child, I had always been interested in music, art and creation and rhythm and dancing and expression and words and writing and photographs and everything else. I've always been interested in creation. And as I got to New York, that just bloomed because a lot of people turned out to be interested in that on Long Island in the late 70s, the early 80s. And music was the biggest thing going, and rap was just breaking. And I walked into New York when rap was still in its infancy. It had just come out the womb. It was still hip hop, a hibbit, a hibbit, a hip hop, hop. You don't stop, you rock it to the fan. I don't want to get in trouble for singing, but you know the one.
Yes, I do. I love that song.
Yeah, I mean, I was rapping before Run DMC put out their first record, man. I mean, that's how long ago I started
Wow.
doing rap music. Yeah, and that means that was sixth grade for me, seventh grade, sixth grade. I had a rap crew, and that was my first indication that I could translate what I was doing privately or in front of my family or in front of my friends to a serious thing that people were wowed by. I had good raps. I remember trying to use big words in the old days and trying to have clever things like I got more money, taller than the Eiffel Tower. I was broke as a joke. We were broke. We came to New York, lost everything, went into abject poverty. But I instinctively knew that you would talk about poverty in a clever way. You know what I mean? It would be poetic, clever. So I had rhymes about that at first, but then I quickly moved away from that to politics. In 1985, we discovered, like 84, we discovered this, probably even earlier when I think about it, this was seventh grade. So you're talking 83, man. This whole South African apartheid thing. And that was my first foray. As I said, I was immediately entrapped by history. And being a person when I got to America, in Trinidad, you're just a Trinidadian. And in fact, when I was a kid in third grade or fourth, fifth grade, and I would come home and say, Black, my 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 all Trinidadians and Caribbean people refer to themselves as Trinidadian or Jamaican. I'm Jamaican. You don't have a person say I'm Black. I'm Jamaican.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like a contrast because the reason for that is in Trinidad and in Jamaica, predominant thought pattern is a class system.
Yeah.
Or at least it used to be. Poverty ruled. So you could be Black, white, whatever, and get into married for sometimes. Sometimes you didn't though, but you never married down. Never was a rich, well-to-do Trinidadian married down on well-to-do Jamaican married. You see that? Look at the movie Rockers. You know what I mean? The young girl wanted to get with Horsemouth, and she couldn't get with him because her dad was like, "Oh, you can't get with him at all. I'm a, that kind of way." And the
Yeah.
Trinidadians are the same. You have same kind of Trinidad. Be like, "What happened to you? You cannot marry this man. You cannot marry this girl. She's not." So Trinidad, but here it's race.
Yeah. Why did you
Here
move from
it's
Trinidad to New York? What prompted you? What prompted your parents to bring you here?
education. They
Okay.
wanted to get us a better education.
Okay.
And so here it's race. So here I had to learn, and I immediately got into politics and music because of South Africa, because of apartheid, because of what I saw was wrong, and because look, my older brother David is a visibly dark-skinned individual. You understand? And so I saw not just among my friends growing up in Westbury, but my own household, how the difference was back then. Now, nowadays, it doesn't really matter as much because of the struggles we put up back then. And I really think that's true. But if you want to talk about back then you have to erase everything that's going on today and understand what was going on back then. And
Yeah.
it was really real for dark skinned people and all that type of stuff. So I felt affinity like that because of my own family too. You know what I mean? Like not just my friends, but yo, man, my older brother David is dark, and my family come in different shades. I'm fighting for my people, and this began to leak into my raps. And so I was like that for a long time. And you have to understand that's not anti anyone or anything. That is pro something.
Yes.
I mean, you, people want to put that into like, oh, you like, you know, like someone's a racist or maybe it's not that. It's hey, you got to lift something up. You know what I mean? This stuff is whether this is lifted up or not. This stuff's definitely falling down. So let's prop this up a little bit. And the way you do that is by propping it up, by talking about it, not by not talking about it, not by ignoring it, or not by buttering it up. So I really believed in that, especially as a young guy. I was like fervent. Okay, so that became in the rap, and that's really where it started. I got into rap as a conscious rapper. I thought that was going to be the solution to a lot of problems, man. I thought rap was going to solve it all. And then suddenly rap started changing by like 1987, 88. It started changing, right? And I got lost. I felt lost. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm like I'm the God, I'm a conscious rapper. And what am I going to do now? And no one's talking about that anymore. And in 1990, it was gone. It was like, let's just not talk about anything at all that is related to spirituality. Let's get street with it. Let's get real. Let's get party. Let's get cool. And I was down with that for me. I'm down with that because that's where I'm from, and I'm from that. But at the same time, I was like, there's something wrong with this. We should be using these words to do what we were doing, like be like the gods. And it was all right. So I had to walk away from rap, and that's when I found Rastafari. And through them, I started hanging out with actual musicians, people who played instruments. And so I always could play hand drums. And so I started playing hand drums, and I got into a band playing hand drums. That's really where Uprising, 89, 90. The dude who's playing guitar was the singer. He left to go be Mariah Carey's guitar player on her first record.
Wow.
And so I was a background singer, and they could tell I was just enjoying myself singing all the songs, top of my lungs, all the background vocals I could. And they liked my voice. They didn't care. They're like, sing on, Israel, you young Rastaman vibing. And so Larry said to me when Alton left, he said, Israel, you're going to be the singer. And I was 19. I was like, what? And I sang in rock and roll bands.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot Common Thread. You mentioned Common Thread. My God, how could I forget? Right before that, like 2 years before that, my friend called me from Sam Ash one day. D-Wiz, Dwayne Sarden, called me from Sam Ash, and he said, hey, man, I have a friend that has a band. They're looking for a singer. And they sent me the demo tape, and that was Common Thread. So we cut that demo. They had a singer before, and the singer had left. And so that was crazy. Not to jump back so much, but I forgot about Common Thread, so let me cover that. That was actually speed metal. I guess you would call it death metal today. But these guys, they were like some of the first I had heard personally doing it, right? In like 85. Now I know now Retracted, Metallic, and all that stuff that was there. But Long Island kids going like hair, like long hair, just it was ferocious. And I was singing God in heaven, sometimes I don't understand. "How in this world? It's so hard to be a man," like stuff like that. It was like,
And
it was
I
fucking,
love that. I love that mix.
it was nuts, bro. And we like killed it, man. And then like the band started having trouble with, the DRUGS,
Yeah.
and it was all good though, man. This is rock and roll, and then it rock and rolled into, okay, so into reggae. So now, like, because I was still growing my locks, so I was like a rock and roll, like lock hair, lock, dreadlock dude, and like in Bad Brains and all that stuff, man. All that stuff was coming down. Like high school, my friend gave me a Bad Brains record. He was like, "Listen to this." He's like, "You're growing your dreadlocks. You think you're a Rasta? You don't know about Bad Brains." And says, "I found out about Bad Brains." And he gave me Eye Against Eye, and I was like, "This is really amazing." Then I found the cassette downtown about 2 months later, the Attitude cassette, and that was like it. I was like, "Oh my god, this!" I was like, everything else gets off the shelf. Now this is the only thing that remains for a minute. But back to so I had known about this ferocious kind of music, but I tell you the truth, I didn't grow up on a hardcore scene. I was actually in the hip hop scene,
Mhm.
hardcore hip hop though, hardcore hip hop, but in the hip hop scene. I wasn't downtown in Tompkins Square. First of all, I was a little bit scared to go down there. The energy that I heard about, I was
Yeah.
like a 15, 16. I was like, man, I'm not going out there. I would get stabbed out there. So, but that's not real because I would eventually meet those people, the sweetest people in the world. You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
vibe they gave off was like, yo, you don't want to go down there. So I never really made it down there until really late in the game. But so I was more like hip hop. But as soon as I got there, I was already knowing what to do because I already listened to music, Minor Threat, Bad Brains. I was already listening to all that music, and so I just took about the horns. I loved it. I loved the beat, man, and that's the first thing that really drove me. I love that beat, man.
Yeah.
That it's something that does. That's where it's at. And so uh, I began singing in Uprising as a singer, and I immediately changed the band into like a more hard edge reggae band because
Mhm.
it was pulsing deep roots reggae, and I added my friend Andy who came in and played like and I like real like leads on a hard reggae. That I kind of took off the Bad Brains. And we were doing that. We get like 250 people a week, man, at Sprats on the Water, in Long Island, Sprats on the Water in Long Beach.
Mhm.
That's no lie. They named the whole thing after us, called "Jamaican Me Crazy." They had Rasta Pasta,
I love
and I
it.
would come out, and yeah, when young dude, I was like 19, come out with a bunch of dreadlocks, singing like Bob Marley, and that's what we do. We'd sing 60% covers of all the great reggaes, and then do 40% originals. And man, we backed up Eka Mouse, we backed up Julian Marley when he was a little kid, like with
Wow.
with, and man, we backed up Super Cat, all kind of people came through, and that's where I think I really started getting my name. But I had two other bands called Motherload, Song of Seven, Isidore Monsanto, all these people, which was rock and roll and like hardcore and jump around hip hop type stuff, mix of hip hop.
Yeah.
And then I knew a girl named Natasha. I started dating her. And after we broke up, about almost a year later, I got a call from her. And she says to me, "Hey, where I was today." I was like, "Where?" And she says, "I was at the Bad Brains audition." I was like, "What?" And so she says, "Yeah, man, it was like 100, 200 people down there. Where were you?" I was like, "Man, I didn't know about the Bad Brains audition. I'm here on Long Island." She was like, "Man, you should have come down." She said, "What? I did you a favor. I gave Daryl your number and I told him to call
Wow.
you." Yeah, imagine that. And I was like, "Word?" I was like, "What? This is like," I'm like, "Are you kidding?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, that's great. Thank you." Did not think that was Daryl Jennifer, the god of all of this, is going to call me, right? Like the sun is going to be like, "Hello, it's the sun." It's like, what? This dude is the dude, in my opinion. This is like the dude, right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm doing my thing in the band, Uprising. We're performing, and we're playing 4 nights a week. Uprising played 4 nights a week for 2 years. We played Thursday night at the Chart House, next night at Carol's Place, next night at Between the Ribs, and next time we skipped the night. And then Sunday was Sprats, and that's all in Long Beach. So we do that 4 times a week, man. And one day I was laid up, man, and here come. Luckily, my mom's was home. She's on the door. You know, they made a movie about this called Rockstar. You watch it. Mark Wahlberg.
I saw that. Great movie.
Yeah.
Actually, from what I read, it's about the singer that took over for Judas Priest. That's what they said. It was based on his life. Yeah.
But how come it's my story?
I know.
That I told all over the world.
Well, you know what? You heard it here first.
The exact same story.
We have a Claus Corner exclusive. The story of Rockstar is really the story of Israel Joseph I.
And who's Izzy? Is the guy from Judas Priest Izzy?
I'm not sure what his name is, but I know that he was in a Judas Priest cover band, the real one, and they saw him and they said, "Oh, we'd love to have you replace Rob Halford." That's all I know about him. And
that's a story of 1,000 guys. Listen to this story. Listen to this story.
I like your story so much better, anyway.
I'm not in a cover band. I'm in a band that's like very heavily influenced, and they are my all-time favorite band, the Bad Brains, Steel Dragon, right? And I'm on Long Island, and I'm growing up with my family, eating breakfast with my brothers who were like messing with me, and my mother, you know, the same thing, like Chris. And check it out. So the only thing that's different, they made him into a cover band. I didn't do the cover band, but I did cover Bob Marley, and I covered Bad Brains, Ja. I Love I Ja. We did that. Okay, maybe they did that. But then all of a sudden he changed his name to Izzy. You know that in the movie? Izzy? That's his name. And then now listen to my story. I don't want to tell you the movie. Listen to my story. So I'm sitting in my room one day, you know, half asleep, and my mother knocks on the door. And I open the door and she goes, "There's a phone call for you." And I get on the phone and I say, "Hello?" And this deep, rich tone, I had never heard this voice. It's like when you hear Daryl's voice, it's like hearing I don't know what, man, like a deep horn type of thing come through. It's such resonance. That's the word I'm looking for. He says, "Is Israel there?" And I said, "This is he." He said, he laughs a little bit, you know. "This is Daryl from Bad Brains. How you doing, man?" And I'm like, "What?" So I go through the whole "what, you got to be kidding me" thing. And it took me 2 seconds to remember. He goes, No, this is Daryl. Latasha gave me your number. It's Israel, right? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, "Oh my God, it is Daryl, Jennifer. This is really happening." And, you know, it could have been a joke, could have been one of her friends, right?
Yeah.
Actually, but I didn't even think about that, right? I just thought, "Oh, this is really him." And I straightened up right away, you know, like, and I was like, "Hey, man," you know, like right away, like Daryl's on the phone, like, "My God." I was like, "Hey." So we're talking, man, and we just had a really great conversation, man. He caught me at a good moment. I probably would have been nervous out of my mind any other time, but we just chopped it up. We just talked about music and laughed and talked about, like, he had a family. I was surprised. I was like, "Wow, you have a family?" Like, I never thought about that. You know, I was a stupid kid, you know. I just never thought, wow, he has a family. I always said when I was younger, I always thought I'd find him like somewhere in some hovel breaking bricks, ready to like cause the next thing, you know, like but no, it wasn't anything like that at all. He invited me up and they lived in a nice place in Woodstock, and but they really was just like trying to get some music together, man. It was so I got the call, we talked, I agreed to go up. It was an amazing thing. I hung up the phone. I was like, "This is crazy." So I did go up there to Kingston, went to Woodstock, and they put me through the paces. The first night was the night. I got there at 11, so I met Daryl at his house, and that's why I ended up staying. Him and his wife and his children, and we talked all night, and then we got up the next day and went to the studio at about 9 a.m., 10 a.m. in the morning. And you know, for a singer, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. But we did it. I met Doc, and I was like, Doc was really quiet at first, so it made me kind of nervous. But it's good energies, you know? And so we all headed over to their studio, which was like a barn. I think I told the story many times. It was like a red barn in the middle of the forest in Woodstock. That was literally a barn, like the old farmers' barns. And when you open it, was converted into like a studio, which was really nice. A performance hall, not a studio, performance studio. And so we rented that. There was a stage and all the equipment was set up. And we showed up the Saturday morning and walked right in. I didn't know where I was going. We walked right in and all of the things were set up, everything. And I was just like, wow. Drums, everything. Mackie was there. I met Mackie at the studio. He met us there. And they were ready to go. Is this too much?
No, I'm enjoying this.
They were ready to go. Right. And I was just like, wow. So it's like parquet floors, a little stage that was about 3 feet to 4 feet tall, and a drum riser. It was all really, really set up nicely. And their amps. And they just walked up the stairs to their amps and plugged in, and they immediately got ready to go. And I was just like, wow, the mic was hot, you know, one test, 1, 2, it was on. And so it had been set up and ready for us to get there. Like he called there, like, yo, just set it up. And Daryl started hitting that bass. I had never heard anything like it, man.
Mm-hmm.
And when he started hitting them G chords, man, and them B chords, it was like, wow, 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 wow. I can't even imitate what a ferocious sound came out of that bass. And I remember thinking, wow, this is the pro level. This is what pros sound like. Right? This is what a pro's amp sound like. And he had 2 amp pegs going, 2 big amp pegs, you know, 5 foot tall amp pegs going.
Did they?
And so
well, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to ask you, like, so when you went in there, did they have a list of songs that they wanted you to sing?
No. What happened was we got on stage and everything was hot. And after they started warming up, blam, 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 I stood there like this. And Daryl walked over to the mic and he goes, "All right, Israel."
You do a great impression of him.
No, he's like, "All right, Israel." He goes, "What song you know? What songs you know?" And I said, "Man," I said, "Daryl, I know all of your music, bro." I said, "You guys are the bomb." I said, "I know all this stuff." I said, "I know all this." He said, "Come on, man." He said, "What song do you know? You can't know." He said, I said, "Daryl, I know all of your songs." And all of a sudden that smile went, he was like, "Doc," he's like, "You know Reignition?" And I said, "Yeah, I know Reignition." He said, "Doc, play Reignition." And that was like, he almost was like, "All right, now you dropping you know more of my songs," so, you know, like that kind of thing, but nice, friendly, brotherly, kind of like, "Oh, you ready to go? All right, let's get serious." So he turned around and, man, Mackie, and when that started, bro, it was like the record, and I could hear the Eye Against Eye record playing behind me with all the down, you know, you gotta have, it's like playing behind the beat almost. Yeah. It's not down, down, it's down, down. It's kind of like laid right behind that beat, and you could hear that crawling monstrosity, bro. But when it came down, down, and I just, I'm a singer, man. And I'm a good mimic too, but not on purpose. I happened to be born with that.
Yeah.
So that combined with my ability to do singing, I just heard HR's vocals. Mm-hmm. And I had a decision to make at that millisecond. Am I going to do my own version of this? Or am I going to give the audience something that they love and let them know here that I can do what HR did on the record? And that was what I did. And the exact print of the man's vocals came out of me, man. It was crazy, bro. It sounded so good, bro. And I did Reignition, you know, Reignition, transfer. And I sang the whole thing. And it was done. He was like, I saw that smile come back, and he was like, "That was good." He's like, "What else you know, Israel?" And I said, "I know Soulcraft." He goes, "You know Soulcraft?" I said, "Yeah, I know Soulcraft." So we started playing Soulcraft, and we went through until the first chorus. And he stopped. He stopped. He's like, blah, blah, blah. Man, I thought, I sucked. I thought, oh my God, I sucked. Like I thought I was rocking, and
Yeah.
here I am, I sucked.
Oh,
Turned around, and Daryl was taking off his bass, and all I could see was this big smile on his face. And he said, walked back over to the mic, and he said, Doc, he said, Israel sounds just like Joe.
wow.
And Doc said, I hear it, man, I hear it. And from he said, Israel, come over here, man. Like a big brother. He was always like big brother vibe. You know, I was 20
Yeah.
years old. Now I was 30 something, you know. He put them big hands on my shoulder. He said, man, you sound good. I got him. I sing just like, he said, sit down, man. And he started rolling this spliff.
I
And
love
he said, what else you know, man? He said, you be writing music. I said, yeah, man. So, all right, we're gonna run through a few more songs. We got up and we did a set. I would consider it a set. We did like half hour. And I sang all them tunes, man. We did all their old songs. And when it was done, Daryl said, yo, Israel, we need a singer for this band, bro. Do you want to be in the singing the Bad Brains, bro? And I said, yes.
it. Let me think about that. Yes.
Yeah, let me like Shanae on Martin. No, but I said, yeah, absolutely. And then I went and we had a grand time and celebrated, and the weekend was over and planned to come back the next weekend because I worked. I was still working at a Demco alarm, you know,
Mhm.
picking parts and assembling alarm parts during the day and performing at night. And then I remembered I had three or four bands. And I was like, oh no. I just left three or four bands. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna tell these guys this? You know, they kind of knew this was happening, but to actually get the gig, and then so it
Yeah.
took me a while to decide what I was gonna do because of that. But then there was a girlfriend at the time that I had, and she told me, if you don't do this, you're gonna regret it for the rest of your life.
Was it Latasha?
No, no, this was
Different.
Michelle,
Okay.
a girl I thanked on the record actually. This was the, you know, you always have this one girl you're gonna marry and have kids, and this is the forever.
Mhm.
This was her, right? We were together
Yeah.
for 3 years, but uh, at the time she told me, she goes, you know, Israel, if you don't do this, this is something I think you're gonna regret for a long time,
Oh yeah, and I
and
agree with
you
her
need to do
because
this.
this is the band, your favorite band growing up. They're legends. If you pass that up for a band that you don't know is going to make, I mean, you could still be friends with them. I like, I mean, I hate to say it. I would think that would be selfish for the band members to not let you do that because I'm sure if they had the same opportunity, they would go for it. So I mean, I'm so glad that you made that decision. And I understand why you had to think about it, but I think that you definitely made the right decision for the right reasons.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I mean, I hurt some people, man. I can't ever
Wow.
forget that I hurt some people. But
Yeah.
that is the story in Rockstar, is it not?
Wow. Yes, it is. You know what? That is way more accurate than the Judas Priest story. So
Dude, I went into the studio and I sang like the dude, and they were like, and is that not the closest story to it? So I think, and then like we went out on the road and everything happened. You remember like I like his name, like I can't even go through it because I don't want to go through like the movie because I'm not gonna do that. But there
yeah.
was a particular character in the movie, the road manager,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a road manager named Perry Whittick that was very similar in character, and the whole thing was, in fact, look, this is not me saying this. The same girl I told you about called me many years later, and we talked and laughed and reminisced. And then she asked me in 2007, so did you see Rockstar?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, nah, I didn't see Rockstar. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, with Mark Wahlberg. I was like, with Mark Wahlberg? I know I didn't see. I saw. I think Planet of the Apes might have been on. I saw, you know. I'm like, no, I haven't seen Rockstar, bro. Just like you, she starts laughing, bro. Just laughing and laughing because she's in it too. That's the
Yeah.
girl who she plays.
Wow.
That's her. That's my girl at the time. That's my woman. That's my everything. My who I stepped away from, who I regretted. Like
Mm-hmm.
it, That's the heartbreak, bro. But she laughed and laughed, and she just said, can you please go watch that and then call me after? Anyway, I don't want to make this all about that movie, but it's just a funny, peculiar thing. So they called me up, and that began a process after that of going up there to play with them and perform their songs,
Yeah.
mostly from Attitude.
Mhm.
A lot of the other songs from Quickness and Eye Against Eye, but mostly a lot of songs from Attitude. At that point, that was their joint. And then one day, I had told him I wrote a song. Daryl asked me, "Hey, Israel, pick out a note," and I said B, and he hit a B on the guitar, and he hit a B flat, and he hit a B, and I think that's the beginning of um, down, 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 da da down, 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 da da down, da da down, down. I think there's a B in there somewhere because that's what he started writing, right? That's what we started writing, I said, oh, he did it in the key of B or something. I said, man, that's interesting line. And he said, yeah, it's something new. And I was like, oh, I got you on this. And did you ever question any of the things they taught you while you were at school? Did you ever question on my teacher, why do you take me for a fool? Rise up, you've got to rise. And I wrote that on Doc's. They had moved the kid into a room together with the other kid. And so I had a room there that I would stay in on the weekends. And I wrote that on his floor, on Doc's kid's floor, man. And I remember, never forget it. It's like I was outside, I was seeing myself on the floor.
Yeah.
I was having an out of body experience, man. And the notebook, and I was seeing also the notebook, and Rise was being written, just being written, man. Rise was just being written. And every time it said rise, I remember Jesus saying, "Rise, Lazarus." Every time it was like rise. I remember like Bob Marley going, "Rise, oh fallen fighters." And I just knew it was right. I was like,
Yeah.
in hip hop, you rock a word, it used to rock a word in the old days. Like, man, I dropped that word first, man. You biting off me. This is old school hip hop, 80s. Rise was my word. I was like, yo, I actually was so ignorant of a lot of punk that at that point I had heard Black Flag, but I hadn't heard the song Rise Above.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? So I had no idea this was going on already, but I was like, look, rise, because it's about time we're gonna have to move to the next level of humanity. And who am I to think about these things? But like I said, since I was a child, I felt this calling. And I was broke in America, so I had no other opportunity. It was either be yourself or be a jerk following somebody, like a criminal, or trying to, be cool when you're not really cool. You're just dressing in some clothes, and you got looks for now. And I knew looks faded, all this kind of stuff, man. I was just hip as a kid, man. As
Yeah.
hip as I could be in my generation anyway. There was hipper generations before us, but I was knowing. So it turned into all of that. And when I got to the Brains, we wrote these songs, and we wrote a demo, Rise, Miss Freedom, Coming in Numbers, and Free. And we put that out. And that demo went on fire.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't believe it. Although it was great. I'll never forget being in the studio singing, and Daryl went in the mic room with me. And he'd done things before he does on the bass. Like when you're singing with Daryl, he'll make sure you know all them stops by just going, like in front of you, you know what I mean? Or like reggae, he'll put his pick in his mouth, and he'll have that look on his face like, keep that tight there. And when we did the vocals at Applehead, he literally went in the sound booth with me, and he was just like going like this, like pushing me through that, man, which was awesome, man. He's just like such a caring person, and so that Rise demo was really fantastic.
It's a great album. I love the Rise album. So I have two questions regarding that. One, what was the fans' reaction? Did they accept you immediately? And two, what was HR's reaction to having you replace him?
Okay, so on question one, I was really pleased to say that everyone went crazy at the shows.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, we went out and played in the beginning before the album was released, but the craziness never stopped. It just grew and grew and grew after the album. But the beginning before the album was really 70% old school and 40% new, my album.
Yeah.
And for Free and Rise and all, man, we had people jumping and going crazy, but they didn't know it. But they was just like, oh, like when it was done, they were like, ah, like, you know, we were like, oh, sweat, we did it. This is really happening. They were like, you know, like throwing bottles or something. So we knew we had the new music, but we had to give them the old stuff. And bro, we went as crazy and as manic and as, you know, like Daryl, like going, like we went as crazy as we could, as ferocious as we could, because first of all, they hadn't played that stuff in like 60 years. So it was almost like new to them again. You know what I mean? They were happy to play it again. And the audience felt, and for me, of course, it was like a experience on level 10, man. It was the best experience I could have. I was singing in the Bad Brains, singing my favorite songs, just like the kid in the film. I was having a time of my life, rocking audiences, singing, you know, and singing Attitude and singing Pay to Come, and like, okay, this is a dream. And then my songs, I wrote an album with Bad Brains, so it was like a dream. But I really felt a reality that I couldn't be a dream. And there came a point real quick when I realized I can't let myself enjoy this too much. I don't know why this young 21-year-old kid thought this, but I thought, wow, I really got to be serious. This is really happening. And so I suddenly became less loose. And I was like, trying to focus. And that took me into a whole new level of my music. I focused on creating, well, you know, we created the album. I realized that we had something to do and we wrote the rest of the record. And I wrote all those lyrics except Darryl wrote Coming in Numbers and Unidentified, and Larry Graham wrote Hair. All the others I wrote as a 20-year-old kid, young man. So, but I realized I had to do something, and I immediately did the only thing I could do, right? I grew up without a father. Musicians were my father. Music was my father. You know, people were like proactive people in society. I took them on as father figures. People in the Bible was my father, you know. So I knew the only thing I could do was be like, represent the best of these people I knew. And the best of them was like people like Bob Marley. So I was like, man, see, people think I imitated, no, they don't think I imitated HR, but they think, oh, you did HR. Maybe, maybe not. But if they do think that, I'll tell them that, no, it wasn't so much HR. It was Bob Marley I was feeling. And it was also because I grew up listening to rock and roll, like old school rock and roll. As a child, we had a little radio that in the kitchen that played a lot of old rock and roll hits. So I was very influenced by the same things as HR, the same kind of reggae. Yeah. But really, my thing was Bob Marley. You know, I come up and be like, "Why, Rastafari," you know, that kind of way. Like he was all like high when he was ready to do it. I felt that. Like, you know, I felt Aquarian. I felt airheaded, and like ready to do it. You know, I wasn't as HR was more strong. HR was more like more like muscular and ready, like, you know, like more like a militant type thing, which was his thing. I wasn't like that. I wasn't that generation. I was more the generation of, yeah, you're smoking and kind of like you chill, but you're really still like a lion, you know, you're like a high irie lion. And that was what I was. And I had a decision what I was gonna do. Was I gonna be the high irie lion, or was I gonna be the militant soldier? And I realized HR is the king of this. And I'm not going to go there pretending to be HR. I have to be who I am. It would be like, you know, I don't want to compare that anyway, but I always see two people in the Bible too. There was Elijah and Elisha. There's John the Baptist and Jesus. You know, they didn't come like each other. You know what I mean? It's similar. You know what I mean? It came similar, but they had different things they offered. They was themselves, you know what I mean? John was in the forest, smashing up the forest and doing things on a different, and Jesus come a different way, you know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
come in like, you have to have the balance, you know? So I saw that as a kid. So I said, man, Rise gonna be like a more Bob Marley kind of thing, man. Like more
Yeah.
like love and peace. And that's what I brought to hardcore. I think a sensibility of love and peace with Rise. That you are in a mosh pit, but like I used to say on stage, the mosh pit is a positive release of aggression. You're not here to hurt each other. You're not here to stomp on each other. You see somebody fall in the pit, pick them up. You see
Yeah.
people fighting, we're gonna stop this show until we stop. I used to do that. I used to stop the show. Hey man, oh, there's a stop fighting. I'm blood. We're going here talking. Back then, I used to like talking in a patois accent a lot. You know, it was just part of the
Yeah.
trip. And like, hey man, stop fighting. Everybody said, love, man. The audience started clapping real loud. And so we used to do that a lot. I think I brought that, as well. And so we wrote Rise under those type of feelings that we were going to be representing, you know, like Jah love. And that's what Rise is. And Rise also, I wanted, as a kid, I heard about conceptual albums. Stevie Wonder songs in the key of life.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye, what's going on? Bob Marley, all of his songs. I'm trying to think of one. All of them are conceptual albums. So I'm thinking like, I wanted to be like that too. I don't know why I was harkening back to the past, man. I just felt like the past was more real, than what I was existing in then,
Yeah.
And I think each generation feels that. And I wanted to do a conceptual album where it's like you're rising. The whole album works out to be a continuous train of thought about taking you higher mentally. Until the end, you're at a point where we're talking about peace of mind, find your peace of mind. And then there's a really peaceful love song at the end that Daryl and I wrote together called For Without You, and that is got its multi-dimensional meanings because man is without God.
Mhm.
A man is without a king is without his queen. You understand? But those kind of things was a little different for the genre at the time, but it was true to who the Bad Brains are in that they are from that kind of music and they have written and listened to and been inspired by Stevie Wonder and all that stuff. So we have to, there's nothing wrong with playing kind of like a thing to that kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's a more slow, kind of like open groove. They do all kind of thing. You have to express yourself any kind of way. You can't be hesitant.
Yep.
And so we
No, go ahead.
so we wrote that album. So we wrote Rise. Yeah.
No, what I wanted to say was I was trying to think of the time frame before the interview started, and I was thinking about it. I did see you at the Anthrax. It's a small club that no longer exists. A lot of punk bands played there, like Black Flag, Miners, all the bands you mentioned before. Bad Brains I saw with you, and I have to say, the crowd was going insane. You did not skip a beat. The music was great, and this is what I love about you. You're saying everything that I was thinking. It's like you stayed true to the Bad Brains, but you were your own singer, your own self. You weren't an imitation of HR. You were your own person, but you could do the HR songs and then you could do your songs. And I have to say, my fiance knows nothing about this kind of music at all. And I had two people on the show. One was Mystic Bowie. He's in a band called Talking Dreads, and he was raving about the Bad Brains. And then I had John Joseph from the Cro-Mags, and he was raving about the Cro-Mags. I'm sorry, not Cro-Mags, Bad Brains, Bad Brains. And so they were both saying, or she said, who are the Bad Brains? I said, you got to check this out. I went through all the different songs here and there, and she goes, whoa, what's this? It was Rise. And she goes, I love this song. And I said, guess what? He's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks. And she goes, oh my God, this is my favorite album. Without her knowing anything about it, she picked Rise out of it. And that's a true testament because she knows nothing about the scene. And she said, whoa, stop right there. She goes, can you play that again? I played it 3 times for her in a row. So
that is such a blessing. I'm always like blown away when I hear that, man, because I wanted to contribute to that band, I really did. So that's incredible, man. It was very organic, bro. Those songs, I felt like they were going to be the key to change some social dynamics that we were dealing with. Um, Again, I was at the point where I was tempted to talk about race and everything else, but I didn't. I didn't. I didn't. I said, you know what, man, I'm not going to do it like this. People have done it before, you know, it's gotten nowhere. You know what I mean? We have to talk about something higher. I got to find something higher. And so I tried to find something higher and put it in words. It was really difficult because I was going against a lot of what my reactionary idea would be, you know.
Mhm.
Um, uh, so it was really like a growing process, and so I'm thankful that people like the album. Some people love the album. I'm really thankful for that. We wrote that record, and you know, when the demo came out, a lot of people came to our door. We had minor labels and major labels, and there was a few major labels, indeed, in fact, and uh, we had a choice. And one day, Daryl and I were sitting face to face talking about this choice, and I said to him, "Hey, you know, I think you guys have spent a lot, and this is just to explain to the fans, to the public, why it was on a major label."
Mhm.
I said, well, I think that you guys spent a lot of time on minor labels. And Rastafari is a message. It's not a religious message, a message of hope for people to tune themselves into something that can elevate them. We believe being vegetarian and thinking positive thoughts is good for people. You know, you don't have to
Yeah.
believe in a God to understand that certain things. You know what I mean? So I said to him, I said, look, it's time to put this message that we've developed here into a big arena, into where a lot of people can hear it. And the only way to do that is to sign with something like Epic Records, who wants to sign us, which is insane.
Wow.
And so, I mean, you're talking about Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, Fishbone was on Columbia,
Yep.
Cypress Hill, Supercat. You know, you're talking about legendary, like, I mean, you know, these are not hardcore people, but hey, man, you know, I love all kinds of music, man. I respect Mariah Carey, you know what I mean? She could
Oh, yeah.
sing, man.
Oh,
I
she's
respect,
extremely talented. Yeah,
extremely talented. I mean,
she's
I
great.
wish I could write a song for her. You know, she's dope. And she's from down the way. She's from Uniondale or Hempstead. I'm from Westbury.
Oh,
We're
wow.
less than 3 miles away from each other. We grew up. In fact, I told you the guitar player from Uprising went to play with her for her record. You know, we grew up right down, me and I grew up right down the way from all those people, actually, from Public Enemy, from Wu-Tang Clan. I mean, Westbury is 10 minutes outside of Queens. Westbury is 5 minutes outside of Uniondale, 5 minutes out of Hempstead, 5 minutes outside of, you know, it's like 10 minutes out, 20 minutes outside of Wyandanch, where Rakim is from. You know,
Yep.
so many people in that. But I think those people are amazing. You know, I used to like Prince. I thought Prince was amazing. He's not hardcore, but Prince is, wow, man,
Oh, yeah.
like talented dude. I respect talent. So, you know, man, I thought, man, Epic Records, man, let's do it and let the sun shine. So we did it. That's why we were on a major label. That it should be the official explanation. And because we just thought it's time for this message to reach a broader audience, and it's time for Bad Brains to have their time, their due, their just due in the sun, you know.
Yep. Well,
And
you know what? That's why I interrupt you right there for 1 second, because I hate when people say this. Fans will say, "Oh, they sold out," and the reason they get mad is because it's a band that's maybe not so well known, and they're the only ones that know about it. And then when other people get to know about it, they become more popular. Oh, they're not the same. It's like they're playing the same music. You're just mad that other people know them besides you. What is a band supposed to do? They're supposed to be as big as they can be, spreading their word, spreading the message. So I am so happy because I watched the documentary. I know a lot about Bad Brains even before the documentary, Finding Joseph. I know all the troubles they went through. Rick Ocasek produced an album. They wanted to be signed to a major label and all the
Island
unfortunate.
Records, we're gonna sign them and all
Yeah.
that.
So I'm so glad that you were in the band at the time Epic Records said, let's sign him right now. So congratulations on that. And I'm glad that
Yeah,
you and Daryl and Doc went along with that.
Yeah, we sat there and we talked about that morning, me and Daryl, man. We really was like, yo, yeah, we all went along with that, man, because it made sense. It was like it was time. We had a good record, we had good
Yeah.
music, and the lyrics were important. And it's like, okay, uh 8 billion, 7 billion people are drowning. We can save, 150, we could save 1,000, we could save 10,000 people, or we could try and really save a million, or like 2, 3, 5, 10 million people, man. We can, including this group as well, including this 100,000
Yeah.
people as well. So and then like a lot of people felt like that, oh, they sold out, but that is the honest explanation. It was Israel sitting there saying, hey, I think that it's time for this message of Rastafari, peace, love, positive energy, vegetarian lifestyle, cutting out terrible illegal, not illegal, terrible things you put in the system like prescription drugs or other kind of drugs, and smoking herb, or drinking herb in a tea, or not even using urban, or like being more conservative, and prolonging your life so you can find some more interesting ways to help use not only just yourself but our earth, because we're here together. All of these things, it's a circle. We're here together, we're on one planet. So for me, I don't understand why people can't just get it. We're on one planet, we live in one house. How can we not care about what's going on? So I think that Rise was that. It was a 21-year-old's best effort to do that in the midst of a lot of rock that was talking about personal issues or a lot of violence and stuff. I try, the era of violent hip hop was gangster rap, and violent reggae was the dance hall of the gunman, and I will shoot you and kill. It was a lot of violence, and I grew up with it, and I went to parties where I saw violence, and in Brooklyn and different places, and I had to walk away. I saw a girl get messed up because she was like a crackhead, and they like supposedly, I don't know what was going on, and like I had to like leave those kind of things, and I realized these kind of things is violence, and this is not good. So I wanted to represent. So we wrote Rise, and that's really Rise is about. It's about rising up from all of the nastiness of that low chakra experience. Now, I didn't know about all these things back then. Believe me, I didn't know about hermetics, and yet I wrote Rise. The lyrics to Rise is perfect hermetic understanding. And I didn't even know about Hermes back then. So I tell everybody watching this the power of the Akashic records of the universe, that Rise is, when I read the words to Rise now as a man, as an adult, these are Hermes' teachings. Okay, this is rising is what the whole thing is about. So it's very hermetic. So we got that out, and it was a success. Um, but then suddenly people started inevitably making comparisons between myself and HR. And that started, I think, putting a little shade over the game. And, I have to say this, I didn't see this kind of thing go on when Sammy Hagar joined Van Halen.
Exactly. I was going to bring that up. I mean, he's completely different from David Lee Roth, completely different style, and they had just as much success or even more with Sammy Hagar. And
they plastered him all over MTV,
yeah,
and he made a commercial song with them right there.
yeah,
Like, right now, where I'm gonna be right now. I mean, it's a bad tune. I can sing it today. I love that. But that's completely different than what they were doing.
yeah, exactly.
But yet nobody put him through the ringer. And I love Sammy Hagar, and I love Van Halen, and God rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen, rest in peace, great guitar player. Love you, man. But come on, nobody did that to them. And I started thinking, man, is this like some kind of like class thing or race thing, or like, like they're gonna like use me like the fire piece of fire, they're gonna light me a fire. But anyway, and I ignored it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to ignore it. You know, they're trying to compare me to HR. But I think that started putting more shade over the thing than was a reasonable amount of shade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even as a 20-year-old, I started realizing that when you're seeing Pearl Jam and Peppers and everybody in hot, heavy duper dupe rotation all over MTV, and Rise is on Headbangers Ball at night, and Fishbone is at, you start wondering what's really going on. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to talk about this, and people are probably gonna be like, "Oh, hey, talk about that stuff, Israel. Stop, just talk about music." And it's okay. Yeah, I'll talk about music. Okay, but hey, let's talk about this a little bit too. Okay, there's a problem in music, and it's called racism. And you guys might not feel that way because you say, "Oh, look at all the hip hop and look at all the this and that and soul and R&B." But check it out. What are they really signing in hip hop? Violence, guns, yo, right? That's what they're signing. They're not signing, hey, peace and love, and we're gonna rise to the next level. They're not putting that on hip hop. And then they sign someone that's not doing it so good, so everybody could laugh at it. So the struggle is to enhance, and it seems as though those trying to enhance in certain groups are not really allowed to really enhance like that, despite the fact that there's a few and few in between. So can't really say it because they'll say, "Oh, look, but there's that. What about that?" And you can say, "Oh, all right, there's one, so I guess I got to keep my mouth shut." But realistically, there is an issue. And I think that kind of affected not only me, but the whole Bad Brains experience. You know what I mean? They were partially, not a totality, but I don't want to be this kind of dude who will sit here on this interview with you and ignore that issue. Okay, that's ridiculous. It's going on like the pink elephant in the room. I think that we were not played on MTV in heavy rotation for the same reason Chuck Berry wasn't played on the radio, for the same reason. It's been that Jimi Hendrix was only allowed "The Wind Cries Mary" as his single and "Purple Haze." Or does that really represent the greatness of the man? I mean, can we have another? And what was the other one? The cover that he did from "There Must Be Some Kind of Way Out of Here."
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep. And the only ones he can have, right? So it's like, what's really going on? And so I had to ignore all of it, but ignoring it, just, if you ignore it, then it just keeps happening. And if you fight it, then it gets worse. So you can't win. So there's no winning. All right. So moving away from that.
Well, no. Before we move away from it, I want to say something that will back up what you're telling me, because as I said, I spoke with John Joseph, formerly of the Cro-Mags, and he was a roadie in the 80s with HR. And he was telling me about the racism back then, and they would sell out shows. The owners refused to pay them, and sometimes they wouldn't even be allowed in the building because they were Black. So I wanted to ask you, at that time, did you encounter any of that as well? I know what you're telling me is going exactly with what John was telling me about his experience with the Bad Brains. What about your personal experience besides the fans and some of the record companies? Did you have issues with the clubs as well?
Well, you got to remember, between when John Joseph was with them in 1981, 82.
Yeah.
And when I was with them in 1991, you had an entire revolution of Black people coming on TV in a major way with hip hop and reggae.
Yes.
So a lot of white people from the Midwest and the Southeast, Southwest that didn't really see people like me or darker than me doing it in a way that they could understand. They saw that in the past. Black people dressed in suits in the 20s playing jazz, Jimi Hendrix, funky Black people in the 70s with big collars on, and then this new thing called rap music that was like a beat, and they're just talking, okay? But then by like 85, rap had some hits, and Run DMC was on TV dressed like they come out, "Yo, Run DMC, want to play," White America saw that, and they were like, "Hey, it's not so bad. It's actually pretty cool."
Mm-hmm.
And what is this really about? And young white kids were like, I can't get enough of this. Like, what is this? Like, because you got to remember at that point, it was only coming out of New York
Yeah.
from specific people from specific place in Brooklyn and the Bronx. And in those places, so hip hop was a baby. And it was a New York baby at that time. So by the time I got there, though, that revolution had happened. Shabba Ranks had a hit with Trailer Load of Girls. You had Shinehead, you had Heavy D, you had people knowing about reggae. You had Bob Marley make his resurgence right when I was coming up in '82. Bob Marley was died in '81, and then like '82, '83 started making a resurgence. Everybody was listening to Bob Marley. I grew up in a world of Bob Marley on the Long Island. Everybody was Rasta. All the white kids was like, you go down to the beach. They was all rocking dreads and getting
Yeah.
high. And I was like, wow, you guys respect Caribbean people. Like that was a whole twist. That's part of what drew me to Rasta too, because Caribbean was known like no respect. Like, oh, it's like you guys live in like the grass huts and like run around in the sun, and it's like, okay, well, that's respect in a sense, but they don't really know because Caribbean's a huge city, like huge cities and big metropolises, even when I was young. And so when I saw these guys loving like dreadlocks and Rasta and stuff, I thought, wow, this is such a great thing for me because I am actually Caribbean. But anyway, fast forward. For me, when I got there, the racism was a lot less. Bands like Fishbone had hits with uh, Freddie's Dead and Bonin in the Boneyard. White kids were ready for black bands in 1991, 92. It was prime, but it didn't happen because MTV and the managers who were still stuck in the old days of thinking didn't really allow it to happen because they didn't put it on blast like they did the Pearl Jams, like they did the I love Pearl Jam, Eddie, all y'all blessings, man. I'm not talking bad about y'all. I'm
Yeah.
explaining a point. I love you guys. I'm glad you're success. Like they did the Pearl Jams, like they did the Blind Melons, like they did I mean, come on. Blind Melon is a beautiful song, but Rise Can't Live. I mean, come on, the four non-blondes. I mean, that's a great song, but Rise can't come on after that song. Like this is the same kind of song, okay? It's like it never lived like that. They every time what's going on? We went on tour with them. We would say, oh, we went on tour with them. It's like how come this is happening? But then I could only think it's happening to all the black bands. 24/7 Spies,
Yes.
Fishbone, Bad Brains, Living Color had one hit, which was Cult of Personality, and in 30 years they haven't been allowed to have one other hit after that. Okay, if you look at it, that's the only song they ever. They produced songs that are way better than that since then, lyrically, musically. All right, so it's done. So to me, I just knew that as a young hip hop kid, I was already knowing that. I had knowledge of self, they called it. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
We used to think we had knowledge of self as kids in the '80s because look, at some point I told you the story about being here, coming not Trinidad, I'm black, right? So at
Yeah.
some point I had to study what this team is I'm on and understand, yes, I understand what's going on, and then develop what we thought the older black people didn't have, knowledge of self, knowledge of who we are coming from Africa into the Western Hemisphere, knowledge that we are products of what the Western Hemisphere taught us in the educational system, and that because of that, we are ignorant and blind and to who we naturally are because we're being taught by a system that was slavery, right? It was slavery in the Western Hemisphere. So this system is teaching us a slave version of thinking. And so we thought the best thing we do is find ourselves and have knowledge of self as melanated people and as white people too, because it wasn't an exclusion. White people, we thought, are the only people going to solve this because white folks know what's really going on, right? This is how the young person thinks. The white guys in Europe, they know what's going on. They can solve all of this, right? And maybe that's still true. Who knows? But I joke a lot, bro. Okay? But like who knows? But I used to think that way, like there was a point where I thought, but as I got older, of course, I realized, look, we got to solve all this together. And there is no real black and white. And I grew to realize the whole thing. I was living in a microcosm in the hood, man.
Mhm.
And man, I'm telling you, Long Island was segregated, bro. People don't believe me, man. What Newcastle and these places were all black, and then you had all the white towns surrounding it: Carr Place, Mineola, Hicksville, Salisbury, all of, and they would like, they isolated this little town, man. And so it was like, I didn't really even, we went to school, and the school was like 2% white, 3% white, like some Italians, and like, but then like when I finally started getting a job at 17 and I had to go to Mineola and Carr Place to work, it was only white people.
Mm-hmm.
So like I went there and I was like, wow, it's only white folks here. And then I would hear a lot of stuff because immediately they didn't recognize me as being black, because at that point, like I said, it was complete unfamiliarity with the black community. So they didn't really even see me as being black. They would say stuff about dark black people around me, and I'd be like, oh, like, did you just say that? Like, oh. And I realized, oh my God, I have to hide that I'm black. Like, whoa, they don't realize I'm black. So like I went through all of that. And then sometimes I'd be like, dude, my family is like, black. I'm black, dude. Like, oh, you're not. I'm like, dude, wow, what's really going on? I'm not black now. Like, it was.
What'd you think? I fell asleep under a tan lamp?
What do you think happened here? I got the old injections? No, I really couldn't understand. It was like a whole different mindset. Now I'm not black. But then it was like, okay, yes, you are black, but you're not really like black. You're a different kind of black. You're like different. So then I realized, oh, there's different kind of black. So it was like a whole deal. But by the time I got through all the 80s, which was the end of that, thank God.
Yeah.
And I think I really had a lot to do with, all of us had a lot to do with that. The 90s came and kids were ready, bro. The love, I've always felt love from white folks, because look, I grew up with white folks in Trinidad. My mother had a good job, my father had a good job. We had white Americans visiting, dudes in big suits. My brother's god uncle is a white American couple that was Elvis's aunt.
Wait, who is this again?
There's a musical trivia for you. My younger brother Dexter.
Okay.
My younger brother Dexter, and correct this for me. The internet says that my name is Dexter Pinto. It's not that.
I have never.
My younger brother's name is Dexter.
Okay.
And Dexter's this is a digressed side note. Dexter's godparents is Elvis's aunt and uncle.
Wow.
Elvis Presley. This is
rock and roll.
Who I grew up with, right?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, you know what? Staying in that, I want to go back for one thing, because you have a lot of musical connections, and we sort of passed over it, but I want to go back to this really quickly, because one of your teachers kept on bragging about her son, saying, oh, he loves to play guitar. What was her name?
That's great. You are awesome, bro. You're awesome. So I had this teacher in Dryden Street, which is a little school out on Long Island in Westbury. Just a few blocks from my house, but we had this really amazingly sweet, red-headed, shocking red hair, they call it like that now, lady, about 5 feet tall, 5 feet 2 inches tall. Sweetest lady, our teacher. And one day, back then you don't change classes when you're in third grade. You have a teacher for the whole day. Mm-hmm. And so one day we're sitting in class at the end of the school year, and we're about to leave her. And this is a sad thing because we're leaving her. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and this summer, what I'm going to be doing, and she was retiring. Man, I remember all this stuff. I was just a kid. And she said, this summer, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be helping my son out. He plays guitar. no, he plays this. And she drew a guitar, an electric guitar on the wall, on the blackboard. And she goes, does anyone know what this is? And I like, and I was like, it's a guitar. And she's like, very good. And she's like, my son plays guitar and I'm going to be helping him out this summer. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Blah, 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 blah. My teacher's fourth grade teacher's name was Mrs. Satriani. And it's Joe Satriani's mother from Long Island, New York.
You have a lot of great musical connections. Elvis Presley, Joe Satriani.
Hi, Joe. Your mother was like a second mom to me. I would see her every day for an entire school year, and I loved her. She was the sweetest lady, loved me, treated me really nicely, and I just want to say you're the man, Joe. You had a great mom, and your mom was my fourth grade teacher. She drew your guitar on the blackboard. I wouldn't realize that till years later, till I worked at Tower Records in 1989 through the early 90s, like before Brains. And one of his new records came in and I pulled it out and the name immediately struck a bell and it was Jocko, rest in peace. Like, yeah, this is Joe Satriani, right from right down the way. And I was just like, oh my God. Like it was crazy.
It
all came together.
Oh, that's funny.
It was totally funny. She was so nice. I remember her, man. We had those little like desks you would sit at, and like you would be able to open up the top, and there was like a little wood piece, and like you keep stuff in. And so it was like that. We had like a little class, and she was just this nice little lady walking around. She loved wearing dark green. She always wore dark green and purple pants. I remember her a lot in dark green and purple pants with this red hair and shocking red hair. And so she was really awesome, but she didn't talk about music. I had no encouragement in music until very late, man. No one in my family. I had an uncle that sang. That was the only person in my family that did music. Was my father's brother, my uncle Terry. He sang, he crooned songs like "My Way" and all these original, like great big singer songs that he could do perfectly. He won contests in Trinidad and stuff, He was like, he traveled to England. Yeah, he was like scouting for talent. Was Trinidad's, Trinidad's Got Talent, and it was called Scouting for Talent, And Scouting for Talent, you would go up and do like America's Got Talent, you would just sing or The Voice. And there was a Simon Cowlin or whatever his name is, and there was a dude in Trinidad like that, and he was just like, "Oh, you suck, man! You can't come here with them kind of voice and think all this singing, go!" And people would be like, ah! But there would be, and my uncle would win, man. He would come up and be like, "My love, my love is you." They'd be like, "Ah, I can sing just like him," like it was. So we'd win. And what he told me when I was 12 in my room one time, don't be a singer. Like he knew. I was probably, when you're ignorant as a child, you don't remember what you're doing. And I probably was talking back and singing and all that stuff already, just like I am now, but I just don't remember. Yeah. And he was like, don't be a singer. He's like, and worse, if you ever be a singer, don't smoke marijuana, you'll love it. And I was like, I will never smoke weed. I was like, are you crazy? He was like, don't do it. He knew, man. He already knew. He was like, I know what you're about, bro. You're not gonna drink. You're not gonna do any of that stuff. You're not gonna like drugs. Your mother's too. Your mother don't talk. My mother never spoke to me about marijuana. Only drugs. Yep. She never smoked herself. I had an uncle.
Wait, let me ask you though. What was his reason for you? I can see the drug thing, but why didn't he want you to be a singer?
He thought it would get me into drugs. He thought, okay. He probably analyzed me as predisposed to being into drugs because I was probably spacey and like, oh man, this one here, boy. Because even my brothers, I'm not at all like my brother. My brothers are straight conservatives. They look at me. My nickname was Crazy, when I was 12, 13, 14. I'm serious. And I was crazy, man. And that's partially because when I was a kid, I liked the singer Crazy, but I was crazy too, right? I was always talking etheric stuff, like really off the wall stuff and talking about visions. I was kind of like Joseph in a sense. When I read the Bible, man, I was like, who are these people? Granny, are you showing me my family? Because I recognize what these people are doing, I recognize Joseph. really quickly, man. I had those dreams, but I recognized, and Joseph, you better shut up about those dreams. My mother also told me you need to play stupid sometimes. She looked at me cooking pot one day, and I was looking at her, what she's putting in the pot, and she said, "I want to tell you something." I said, "What?" She said, "You need to learn to play stupid sometimes." And I said, I was shocked. I was like, "You want me to play stupid?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "You need to learn to play stupid sometimes." She was like, "People don't really like," and I think about these things as a man. I must have been saying some really weird shit. I don't remember, but I was really always cosmic, though. I know that about myself. I had always had a cosmic vision. So all of that amounted to um, writing Rise. Rise was my declaration about what I had to do for myself and what I thought the best thing for others to do and the way to do it. It started out in school because I felt like they didn't understand me. I hated school. I went to school nervous pit. I fought in school till I'm seventh grade. Fought fist fights. People. I was at odds with things. I was always strong as everything, like a weird strong. So I was always scared to use my strength, and it's been this way till now. I'm very strangely strong, and I'm scared to use my strength. I fought in school. I hated fighting. I hated the way it felt. I detested it. So I stopped at all costs by seventh grade. But I hated going to school. My family was fighting at home, alcoholism. I couldn't concentrate. I wanted to be a poet, a writer, an artist. There was no curriculum for that. Certain teachers took me under their wing. Certain teachers thought I needed therapy, so they tried to send me to therapy by like 87. But I didn't, I got need a therapy. I'm like, come on, I just stronged it out, and walked 380s. And so that all went out to Rise. That's what that album is. That's what that means. I knew that's what I had to do. Yep. And then the rest of it is just an observation of society. See, I thought there would be a lot more records for Bad Brains. Mm-hmm. So Rise is written like, hey, there's going to be a lot more of this. I'm going to be spitting off song after songs, man. Let's do it. So Rise is kind of like observations of society, internal observations. Like, at the beginning, it was going to be a conceptual thing where I knew I was going to write lyrics connected to the last record. And I thought people were going to respect me for that or respect me for the poetry on Rise. But then I realized, man, I'm Black. You know what I mean? Like, what did I think? What was I thinking? What was I thinking?
Well, the thing is, though, like I told you, I saw you perform and the crowd loved you. I'm sure a lot of the fans loved you. Unfortunately, there's a minority that are going to think the way they are. They're going to be ignorant. And unfortunately, they have the louder mouths and the more, and I think, unfortunately, more people listen to that minority, and probably most of the people loved you, loved your album, loved your music. It's just, unfortunately, they had the bigger mouth and it made
it. They weren't even in the audience. I don't want to even, what you're saying about the mouth and everything, it's true. Yeah. But these mouths didn't come from the audience. The audience was love. As I said, at that point, I thought Black and White was on the same energy, that we was just going to finally be this united America.
Yeah.
That was going to rise. But where the voices were coming from was above.
Okay.
Understand?
From the frenetic mind of author Rich Sear. 5 terrifying short stories, now available in one collection. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. 5 tales of blood-curdling terror, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
All of a sudden I hear, brim, brim.
What's a diaphragm again?
Ha! We caught one.
They're supposed to be weird.
Oh, yeah, no. If you say so.
I've always wanted to be in a movie.
Around the road